be damned if I were to be silenced, because I am a survivor of gender-based violence and femicide, and I will not turn a blind eye. So shame on you, shame to our government. We see you, how you siphon money around, with or without your money, with or without your training, we will soldier on.
Okay, can we, just a little bit of quiet, please. I can't honor all of your directions. You are all directing me what to do, including this gentleman in the middle. I'm looking at you. I'm in the invidious position of needing to keep time. I'm also in a position where I do not want to police the heartache and anger and emotions of a black woman in this country. And sometimes those two things pull in opposite directions, okay? So that's my burden as the moderator. I thank you for your contribution, as voluminous as it was. Thank you for speaking your truth. With that said, I think we're going to have to accept the practical reality that many of the themes will have to be teased out in the other sessions. We'll have another accountability plenary tomorrow, which my colleague Kathy Moshlaslana will moderate. So for now, I'm going to allow only two, and I beg you, please don't make me beg you to keep it small. The program has to go on. So just two more interventions, and try and keep it under 2 minutes each. Then my panelists will speak, and then we move on with the program. The issues are enduring, but we can't have a 10-hour plenary. My husband is waiting at home.
I thank you for the opportunity given. My name is Katle Horasipite. I am the Minister of Safer Sex in the country. Minister Lamula, they say history based on the history of this country. I remember when we first launched the NSP around comprehensive for sex workers' health, that the president, now president, also was launching Newtown. In that plan, it's almost since 2016. He called for ways to look into the decriminalization of sex work. The very same president, he was by then sitting in Senate. I was sitting with him. 6 bodies are found here in Gauteng. Sex workers, I was at the mortuary. These are black women, because we have seen the way our media, your celebrities are there. Each time when they protest sex work, they put it as a black women thing. It's almost 60 years, and we must correct me, I've never done law. Almost 60 years when the colonizers through Cape Town, they come and criminalize what black people were doing, especially black women. 60 years, today it's 2022. This country managed to legalize LGBTI. The very Sexual Offences Act and the moral laws for LGBTI are the same laws that are arresting sex workers. Minister, 1 minute is remaining. When you give out your stats, does they also indicate the numbers under your Sexual Offences Act of the petty crimes that the police arresting on sex workers? Because on the same day, when we go to march for the 6 bodies at John Paul at the court, the same police went and arrested 45 sex workers on that day because they said, because there's a killer out there, we want to keep them safe. In the same place, Minister, the biggest conference going to happen of the ruling party in this country. Some of you are not going to come back as ministers after December. How will we know that the 2024 time frame were to decriminalize sex work? Who are we going to hold accountable? Because in this country, we use morals, we use religion, we use culture to give people what is based. My body, my business. When black women say 350 that the Ramaphosa is not enough, we want more. Can we start engaging legal and national police on them? I saw you on TV the other day, going over the people who were shot. I've never seen even the MEC probably of the safety of Gauteng, going to the same scene where 6 women were murdered by a 21-year-old. It means sex work has still been stigmatized in this country. It's still seen as a poor black person. That's why your police minister, I saw say, they will never go to Sunday and arrest those
In 2018, Minister, in 2018 we had a summit, and the summit was for recognizing that South Africa is one of the worst in collating disaggregated data in the world, in fact, among the worst. And it really shocks me that in 2022, 4 years after we had this first summit on data, disaggregated data is still one of the biggest issues. And quite frankly, we cannot do much to fight the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide without even understanding what is happening, to whom it is happening to, and the impact thereof. Most of the officials that we work with have never even done an impact assessment, which means that we are rolling out interventions in the ground that are not even based on any type of evidence, and where there is no information or data to support that those interventions are working, and yet money is being spent on those interventions. So I would like to know from you, Minister, only because Minister Batabile Dlamini had started the process before you, what I would like to know from you is how far are we in moving forward with this aggregated data in South Africa? Because quite frankly, if that's not sorted out, we are actually wasting our time. The second question, you see, listen, I'm going to keep it short. And I guess I'm summoning the president quite prematurely, but I'm going to summon him nevertheless. Mr. President, in 2019, we marched to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange to hold the private sector accountable in this country, asking for a 2% tax levy on all JSE-listed companies in the country, so that they can be held accountable for their own participation and complicity in gender-based violence and femicide in this country. What happened is that along the pipeline, the process was hijacked by people who I believe that you are aware of. And to this day, from 2019 to the year 2022, we have never been able to move forward in holding private sector accountable for that 2% tax levy. So I want to hear from you, Mr. President, how far is that process in holding the private sector accountable? Finally, I'm not sure if the people in this room are aware, in particular the non-VIP delegates, but we have been doing work on the NSP for well over 2 years, being funded by donations and voluntary labor. I want them to know from you, Mr. President, at what point are you going to take the work of fighting the fight against gender-based violence seriously enough for you to be able to fund it? I think we've all reconciled ourselves with the fact that that 1.6 billion never existed. But what we do want to know is that because we've committed ourselves to the NSP GBVF process, is where is the money to fund the NSP GBVF? It is unacceptable that the Ford Foundation, that is an American-based company, is the one that is funding the consultants. And we have to work with a measly 1.2 million rand on a yearly basis in order for us to get the work done. We have left our homes. We have not slept at night doing the work that brings us all here today. It is not your labor that has brought us here today, but the labor of hundreds of women and queer people from across the country that have tried to make this thing stay alive. So I'd like to know, where is the money to support the NSP GBV work? Why are we being funded by an American-based company and not our own departments in the country? And I also want to know about the 2% tax levy processes and when we're going to continue with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to ask my panel members to respond very briefly, in no particular order. Please keep it short, and please try and address some of the questions that were particularly very pointed, and let's try and steer away from generalities. The first person I'm going to give an opportunity is the speaker, Ms. Mapisa Makula.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we've noted the questions. The one issue which was raised by the colleague here was a matter which was directed to us in Parliament on the allegations against a member of Parliament, allegations of sexual abuse. We Just to say that, colleagues, we noted that. But I do also want to remind all of us that at the end of it all, before Parliament would have dealt with the matter, it would have been dealt first by the law enforcement agencies, and it also would have gone to the NPA. And as you know, the NPA has declined to prosecute, and they would know better what reasons were there, whether there was enough evidence now or not. But all that I'm saying is this, please be patient with me. If, for instance, the Committee on Justice or even the Committee on Police were to invite advocate, for instance, Patoi, the NDPP, and say, we note that there was this particular case, and this is what the outcome is. What would be the reasons? The only person who would be able to provide answers to a portfolio committee or Parliament is the NDPP, because they know best what happened in that case. So I'm just saying, because you were very direct in raising the matter, and that, yes, and that is, there is very little you can do before the matter has been dealt with by those who deal with such cases. And I think in this case, that was the situation. Not that the ruling party as a ruling party in the country does not deal with issues of sexual exploitation or even abuse of women. One thing I know, which the organization has stood firm to deal with, is that of sexual abuse and exploitation of women in the country. And therefore, even the organization maybe found itself in a very difficult position for as long as there was no clarity about what exactly happened and where the case is. Thank you very much. That is all you raised with me. Thank you.
I want to ask Minister Cyril to address some questions. There were a number of questions related to your portfolio. For example, there was one question very pertinent around thousands of cops that have got sexual offences related to themselves, which obviously do not make them fit and proper for their role. The flip side of that is you also won't have much justice, Minister, if broken men go to work and are expected to be entrusted with the stories of survivors who come and lay complaints. So what kind of counseling do they get? So accountability for those cops that are part of the problem, but then other cops that are themselves survivors, and that too can make it difficult for them to do their jobs optimally.
Thanks. Well, indeed, you remember that the police are policed by the IPID, are also policed by the Secretariat, are also internal structures like ACU, which is a unit that looks the corruption within the police. But dealing with this, police face double trouble, especially female police. Some of them, they are abused by their own colleagues within the organization. And then there are members of the South African police, especially the male, that will abuse the people that they're supposed to protect. That is the reason that every month in the ministry we receive a list from the IPID of the police where they are supposed to be disciplined by the top management, starting from the national commissioner and provincial commissioners, disciplining those members. We receive the list that is referred to the NPA for those police to be prosecuted. That's why we have police that have been sentenced in long sentences because of the very the very abuse that they're supposed to be defending. As we speak now, of late, last 3 months, 11 members of the South African police have been sentenced to long sentences because they themselves have abused the people that they're supposed to protect. But within the police, we have a section of wellness where police are counseled, but we also talk to other organizations. It will be like the DSD to help us to counsel those that themselves are victims and those that themselves have witnessed this kind of abuse who themselves are disturbed. So there is that within the police where we try to assist those that themselves are victims of circumstances, but also they have the issue where they can't take it anymore. But it's not very true that police that break the law are not face consequences. Themselves, there is a lot of consequences. They are fired, they are arrested, they are in prison, they are disciplined. So indeed, that is what is happening within the organization. But we also try to give extra training to assist them to be strong enough to deal with the situations that they face every day. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Minister. Minister Nkwana Mashabane, there were a lot of questions. I'll just highlight a couple, and you can address any of these. Civil society still wants to know very pointedly, setting yourself a date for yourself that we can hold you accountable by, when this council will exist. Second question, can you publicly give us your view on decriminalization of sex work? And a third question, what happened to the BMWs?
Well, let me repeat our response to the processes that we have undergone on the gender-based violence and femicide bill. It has been tabled in Parliament. Parliament will give us a date when the bill will be completed. Then we will develop regulations, and we once again want to say in front of our president and all South Africans here, within 3 months, within this financial year, we can relaunch. I heard someone saying the GBVF bill was cancelled then, but we had resuscitated that work. We've gone through all the corners, back to Parliament. I'm talking about accounting for from 2018 to where we are seated. And on the BMWs that were donated, the small ones that were donated to us through a visit of one of our donors, there were 5. One was given or handed over. In fact, they were handed over in public at the GCS Center. One to Umlazi in KZN, Shiluvani Disability Organization, allocated to an NPO that provides services to children with disabilities who are hardest hit by gender-based violence. Second, Pretoria in Gauteng, for who? Youth for Survival, an NPO which deals with youth, homelessness, and abused women and their children. Number 3, given or handed over to Middleburg in Mpumalanga, a shelter and victim empowerment center for victims of gender-based violence, mostly women. The fourth, to Limpopo, to a Disabled People of South Africa, DPSA, to an NPO that services persons with disabilities. The fifth, to Eastern Cape, to WHO, Masimanyane NPO, which focuses on eradicating gender-based violence, and Femicide, a focus on trafficked persons as well as the interface of gender-based violence, HIV, and AIDS. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister of Justice. I'll give you a chance for a final remarks. There were lots of questions for you. Among them was also the question you got about whether or not there's any budget that had been ring-fenced in relation to hate crimes.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Eusebius, and can you hear me? Yeah, maybe it's because I'm very tall. There is a Shangan idiom that says that vana va munhu va tsemelana nhloko ya njiya. Loosely translated in English, it means that children born of the same family, they share the head of a locust. It sounds impossible, but it can be done. It is in that spirit that the Department of Justice has appointed at senior level people in terms of coordination with regards to issues of the national task team that Steve co-chairs to deal with the issues of the LGBTQI community, including the NPA has got a rapid response task team. The resources may not be enough from what we have, but we continue to work with civil society and the NGOs, and the work is commendable. We also hope to mobilize more resources to put into the space, and we do have that dedicated officials into the space. With regards to the courts, the bail issue that was raised, the Criminal Law Amendment Act will make that example now impossible, that the president has signed. It has now tightened the manner in which people can get bail. The NPA has got the duties and obligations, the courts, so it is now no longer, as she put it, that amendment, as the president has signed, it will make it practically no longer possible. And if anyone does it, it's wrong, it's not in line with the law, there are procedures that must be followed, because the law is very clear in terms of what must be done in that regard. And that is what the Criminal Law Related Amendment Act also its purpose, and it's also a product of the last summit. The decriminalization of the sex work, indeed, as I said earlier on, before the end of this year, we will have published the bill that will be out for public comment and also going to Parliament, where stakeholders will make inputs and comment on this specific issue. I do understand the issue of trust that is being raised, that it has been too long, but from your engagement with the Deputy Minister, you have got the clear timelines and the framework of when and how it will be done. And I know that most of you participated in the development of that bill. Yeah, I think this was the last one. Thank you very much.
Last but not least, or in fact, second last, before Nondumiso speaks, we do also have some young adults here from the Children's Summit, I think. Can I have one of them contribute, and can we please listen? This conversation needs to be thoroughly intergenerational. Children are one of the most vulnerable groups, and we often speak about social policy in relation to children, anthropologizing them rather than recognizing they too have agency. Would one of you like an opportunity to speak?
Good morning to the House at large, all protocol observed. I am Midrand Pretorius, representing the Northwest Province. I just wanted to say that we as children have been pushing to be on the program for today, and unfortunately that has not happened because we would like to address our issues or bring them forth to our President, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. So just to mention one thing, during the dialogue, we as children felt that our views were not considered as there was no child participation during media briefings. I mean, during the initial drafting of the NSP, children's voices were not included. We weren't included, and we suffer from gender-based violence as well. People have spoken so much and have presented so much on gender-based violence and on femicide, but how many times have children been mentioned? How many times have we been taken into consideration? How many times have you thought of us? Is my question that I'm posing to the floor at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Less than that. Thank you so much, and that's a very, 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 very important question, and I must also add that in the 2 days that we'll be here in the caucuses, there will be discussions around children, there will be discussions around persons with disabilities, and we will all be working towards how do we accelerate, how do we amplify, and more importantly, how do we make sure that the voices, in this case of children, are not left out of this conversation. I also want to stress something that's really important that was raised by the colleague from Wanela Foundation, and I need to stress again, civil society organizations are working with shoestring budgets. If no budget at all. If no budget at all. And that is extremely, extremely challenging. And I must also add that in the absence of a national council, in the absence of a council entrusted with coordinating a response, how do we coordinate a response? Because that is really, really, really worrisome. There's another thing that I want to stress that was raised by colleagues here, and it's actually stated in the National Strategic Plan, and I want to quote it quickly. On page 44, it says, strengthening multi-sectoral coordination and collaboration must be based on relationships of trust. It will take trust for us to collaborate. It will take transparency for us to know what is happening with the IMC. Because as far as we are concerned, we're not sure of the decisions that are being made at IMC level. We don't know what the terms of reference look like. I don't know if anybody has even seen the minutes of the IMC. But yet, the role of the IMC remains very clear in the National Strategic Plan. So I think it's really, really, really important, Minister, that we look at that, and I'm going to move away because you're going to. Thank you.
Thank you. Please can we thank all of the panel members for their contributions. And with that, I'd like to ask the panel members to please vacate. Thank you so much, ministers. Yeah. And just before we go into the next item, okay. So thank you to all the ministers. My deepest apologies we couldn't take more interventions. It's just because the program has to move on. And in the last 20 seconds, what I do want to say, not wearing my hat as a moderator or as an analyst, but as a South African and as a male, thank you for everything you do as civil society organizations. Patriarchy and violence does as much damage to us as men as it does to you. Please, can I just conclude? I myself am someone who's a victim of rape, and if I have one regret about this space, it is that survivors are always the ones who are asked to lead in terms of how is the way forward. And I hope that many men, not just in the audience, but I know this is being broadcast, will take the opportunity to self-examine what do we do as men to make sure that we behave differently rather than expecting women to be leading a conversation about their victimhood. Thank you so much for being part of the conversation.
Let's give a round. Okay, first of all, let's give a round of applause to those that have asked questions and ministers. Let me say this. We have ample opportunity in the program for questions and discussions. And we've got a plenary tomorrow. So if you do, no, we've allocated 2 days for this summit. Come on, help me here. Come on, help me here. This is an agreement that we have between government and civil society. We have agreed to have 2 days of discussions. Pardon me, what do you do? You take a break? You give people a break and come back?
Then we're going to lose the program. We're not going to do what we are going to do.
Okay.
Then we will not be able to do what we are going to do. So we have to take a decision about how we move on.
Right. So how do you move on? How do you move on?
I think we just like...
We have 2 minutes each person?
No, it's not going, because then nobody said it's going to... People are just going to keep on going with it. Let's take a break. This is the end. Break. Yeah.
Okay. What we're going to do... Okay. Hello. We're going to take a tea break. Tea is ready. Come this side. Okay. Hello. I'll do it. Let me help Rob, because we'll allow me managing 30 seconds each. Okay. Yeah. Hello. What you are going to do? Let me help. Hello. No. What we are going to do is allow you 30 seconds each. 30 seconds each one of you. Can you get the mic? No. Get the mic and then start speaking. I hear you. Wait a minute.
30 seconds. Nobody must speak beyond that.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, let me know.
Amandla! Comrades, asibopeng ke. Re buile le moetapele wa South Africa. Comrades, asibopeng ke. We're going to take the next 15 minutes And we're going to allow you 30 seconds each to make Asibopen, comrades. Comrades, Asibopen. It's fine. We're going. Sharp. Mamelanke. Comrades, let's not waste time because we have asked that let's allow, before the president speak, that you be heard. Can we do that? Are we going to cooperate? Perfect. So I've asked the two moderators who are here that we assist the process. The president is here, the ministers are here, and all the dignitaries are here. I'm going to request we move like this. Sharply, I've got the timer to assist. We listen to the points. Can we do that? Perfect. We'll start with you, Comrade Rosie.
When will the sexual offences register be made public? What happened to no bail for abusers and rapists? Mr. President, there were many victims and survivors of the 2018 summit. What happened to them? More importantly, where is Martha?
Thank you so much. That side.
This is to Minister Lamola. In 2007, the National Register for Sexual Offenders was issued. It is no use having an act that's not implemented. High teenage pregnancies, primary and secondary victimization, because from CJS to psychosocial services, we don't have a vetting system in place. Last one, Minister Lamola, our victims are savagely cross-examined during court. Can we have proper court preparation to make our people strong, to be able to respond to learned people cross-examining and violating them? Thank you.
Perfect.
In the morning when I came here, I just felt like this conference, this summit is null and void. Yes. President, where is the Department of Social Development? And I'll tell you why I am in need of social development. Social development was given power by the Victim Empowerment Charter to coordinate all the departments in making sure that the Victim Empowerment Program becomes a success. All the questions of funding and everything, they were supposed to be answered by them. CGE started in 2014. It has done a survey. It has found out that the shelters are in shambles because DSD is failing to coordinate, monitor, and to evaluate the VEP program. That is why we see the statistics coming everywhere, not talking to each other. They were provinces were commissioned by CGE. From that, we know Free State has paid 9.2 million. So if you want all the provinces to pay 9.2 million, we will make sure that we assist CGE on the things that we know that they are happening. That money is the money that is supposed to be fighting gender-based violence. The issue of funding.
Thank you, comrade. We have a long list.
Good morning, Lebogang Motao from Free World Initiative representing Gauteng. We just want to say we as South Africa are the rape capital of the world. We've got a woman raped every 25 seconds. 1 in 3 women will be raped, 1 in 9. We've got a minister of police who tells a woman you are lucky you were only raped by one person, or is highlighting the fact that the person that was arrested is because he is a convict, he's a serial rapist. What does that mean? If you were raped only once, then that's okay in South Africa. If you rape only once, that's okay, you can go home. We tell women that they need to leave their homes where they are being abused and go into a shelter, yet the man comes to them. When they go into the judicial system, they are treated as if they are saints, whereas a woman has to prove the fact that she was raped. Leadership needs to do better by us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a researcher from the South African Medical Research Council. I would like to make a correction of an omission around the femicide prevention strategy. The program and the development of the strategy was commissioned by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, working with the promotion of rights of vulnerable groups. led by Advocate Kambula. And then the second point that I want to make is to actually ask and address the President and everybody that works with you. What will it take to fund gender-based violence prevention that works? What will it take to redirect the loads of funding going into policing that we see from those states is not having the impact that it's meant to have? Community organizations here are demonstrating to you, and emotional as they are, because they are loaded with loads of responsibility that is not funded, President. Please let us make sure that there's adequate, not 250,000 rands to fund the work of the pain that women and children and gender non-binary groups are suffering in this country.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for caution. There were people that were remaining on the queues before we reopen this session. Now, I see the queues are increasing. Remember, I saw it. I saw it. Remember, we have 15 minutes for this session. So let me take that hand. Umbonile, that's why she's sitting down. He has a comrade.
Thank you very much. My name is Chloe Homer from Safe Space non-profit company. Firstly, I'd like to request that this database from this summit not be utilized and not abandoned to ensure that civil society is included in all talks and discussions going forward. I'd also like to propose an accountable and transparent funding workshop open to all registered MPOs and MPCs to ensure funding is readily available. Yeah. And I'd also like to make one more point about a convicted rapist who is serving as a mayor in the Kanaland municipality on the Garden Route. This shows that our government is not serious about gender-based violence by allowing convicted rapists to act as public representatives. And for the sake of politics, we cannot allow this. We need to set a better example. And one more point, we need to drive to recruit more female officers in the South African Police Service. Thank you.
Yes, Comrade.
Thank you very much. My name is Pete Lengwabala from Beauty by Nature National Albinism Society. I'm very disappointed because out of all the presentations I've heard this morning, none spoke about albinism. Mr. President, maybe it is the way of avoiding albinism as a disability. We had a march in 2018. Till today, we do not have any response from the Office of the President. And today, ministers are really talking about issues of gender-based violence, of which albinism is not part of that. It is very much amazing. Albinism people, we are ignoring their killings. We are dying. We have a serious challenge coming to GBV. If albinism is not a disability, can the president declare or the government declare? Because I don't get it why albinism people must be checked based on their eyesight by SASA, while the albinism skin itself is a disability.
Thank you.
Our people fall into wrong relationships that lead to GBV. Because they are hungry, they are unemployable, because they also can't go to school. Reasonable accommodation in school, it's not there for albinism people. So can we deal with albinism issue? Come to us, let's discuss albinism.
Thank you.
So that we can put it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. I would like to find out from the funds that has been allocated to say how much that has been allocated or that was given to health. Because I hear most of us, we are talking evidence collection, but we tend to forget the critical stakeholder that is collecting that evidence, because we are referencing to evidence, but who's collecting the evidence? I don't see the Minister for Health. I think it's time that we must rope health in, because we are talking about accountability, response care and healing. But
like who's receiving the patient, the first contact, it's either SABS or health. And if you are not investing in health and SABS, then what are we doing? We are not going to get the end result. Yet we are focusing on the end result. But who's helping all other stakeholders or the government sectors to make sure that at the end of the day, we increase those conviction rates? So can the health minister and the health stakeholders be part of the engagement? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Adila Maker from the Southern African Alcohol Policy Alliance. This is a question for the President. The Minister of Justice indicated that it only took 2 years to move a law. Currently, we've got the Liquor Amendment Bill sitting since 2017. There's a clear link between GBV and alcohol. Why is the Department of Trade and Industry not moving this bill so that we can create a safe environment for women? The second question is to the Minister of Education. Why is the Minister introducing a proposal that schools can apply for liquor licenses?
Thank you. Quick one.
Thank you, Steve. My name is Ramaphosa Putin. I'm from the district of Moderator in Cape Town. This summit is about accountability. The role, and as already said, the space of the NPOs in the GBV is shrinking. Government has taken over. Lack of funding there's lack of funding, no funds for shelters. Government is failing to account about the money now here, the money that our president pledged during the first summit. Organizations like Ministerial, with the vast experience on violence against women and children, are not recognized at all. Also, we have our hotspots that are not even mentioned, like Langa, Nyanga, Kululetu, Kaelija. They are not mentioned in these reports. This report of the police, to me, is a fallacy. I'm not, especially in the Western Cape. That report, it must be scratched off. Sure. The sooner, the better, President. Please remove the Minister of Police.
Thank you. Thank you. Activist TDK from Akum. I just want to say this, Mr. President, with due respect, there is real life after Galaga Estate. And if we can get to the bottom of everything, we can't be solving GBV if we haven't solved the crucial issues in this country. Sure. Our country is in shambles. We need to raise leaders who are going to be actively involved, to go in the ground in the same way when these leaders, they go out there and talk to people in chats and talk to people. It is the same way they should try and solve GBV. They should go out there and do the same campaign, because that is where the real issues are. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Remove all the comrades and put activists.
Colleagues, I'm going to request, let's go straight to the question. We only have 5 minutes remaining. Shoot straight to the question. This side, please.
Good afternoon, Wendy Bukier, Ubuntu Rural Women and Youth Movement. Watching the videos earlier, seeing the faces of women and children, and that's not all the women and children killed. There's many more that hasn't been on the video, and it brought so many emotions. They're not just statistics. It was children with futures. Their parents had dreams for them. Their families are scarred for life, and yet we see rapers and murderers being released on bail. 855 women and 243 children killed between April and June this year. 4-year-old Pagabo, her rapist and murderer, was released on bail for the rape of a 9-year-old. Tesnay van Wyk, rapist and murderer, was released on bail. And I believe their blood is in the hands of the parole boards and the magistrates who granted bail to people who should have never bail in the first place. 9,506 in the rights reported in the same period. Only 286 rapists convicted. 46 life sentences. How is this possible? President Ramaphosa did promise us that no rapists and no murder of women and children will receive bail. We don't want lip service anymore. We want action. We want to see the numbers reduced. We don't want to respond to people, to women and children being killed. It shouldn't happen. Not in this lifetime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amandla. President, what are you doing about the departments who are not submitting monthly reports to your office on their role and responsibility on GBV? Today they are here, beautiful, dressed, but there's no report. Number two, Mama Pisa Parliament, what are you doing about our leaders who you have put in positions, and when they are involved in issues of GBV, they are still in those positions. And that doesn't show us that as Parliament, we are really serious about dealing with the issue of GBV. We know they have rights, but as a leader, even if it's alleged, take those people out so that we can see that you are really serious about it. And also, Parliament, where are you with our Convention 190? The last one, the 2018 summit, we talked about the issue of women who are not getting parole, Today, you don't give us the report, how far is it with those women? With the bills, we were part of it because we have input, but the action, where are those women? What are you doing about them? Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Spiso Mkondwane from Mpumalanga. President, one of the bills in the Constitution says right to life. My question to you is, how do you measure an innocent child, a 4-year-old that was cut into pieces and buried? How do you compare a child that the perpetrator cut her private parts so that the penis can be big, or the vagina can be big enough to enter? How then do you measure the life that we're talking about in the bill? In 26 June 2019, I sent a letter to you, President, as well as Minister Lamula, and 4 things that I raised. The first one was that every rape child and every case that has to do with sodomy and attempted murder should be added. I'm sure we have enough senior counsels, we have enough members here to make that happen, because maybe you would need to understand the psychological as well as the physical part of a child when it's being abused sexually, that you would know that we need to amend an attempted murder with that rape charge. Secondly, Section 12 of the Child Amendment Bill. It says the minister can give consent, or he can sign. He can sign that the child might get married. Then my question to you is, isn't it that you are abusing the very same rights of a child in Section 12 of the Child Amendment Bill? What kind or what situation would lead a minister to sign off a marriage of a child? And lastly,
no, Cyril is cut. Cyril is cut. Cyril, I'm taking, you are the last person who's speaking. Comrades, I've asked for cooperation right at the beginning, and I've requested 15 minutes as we have requested here.
Thank you.
So you are the last. Can I request, colleagues, we won't be taking any more speakers. This is the last speaker.
Thank you very much, Program Director. My Honorable President, if the Minister of Health is not there, the person who's speaking here is is a qualified clinical forensic nurse who acquired this qualification from the University of Free State.
Okay.
As the clinicians, we have a problem or limitations we wanted to address with the president. So all the statistics which were reflected here by the Commissioner and the Minister of Correctional Services of DNA. These are the professionals who collect all those evidences, DNA evidence, who go to court to lead evidence as expert witness. They are today, other departments, proud of the conviction rate. We are the professionals behind that. Actually, the Department of Health is a key department in terms of dealing with the GBV. So now our challenge is that, President, we are treated, our qualifications are treated as citizen attendance certificate. So President, with you, we are still registering that there are some issues as a clinical forensic nurses which we want to address.
Now,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, comrades. Thank you for all the input that has been provided. And we are sorry we can't take all the points. Comrades, President is going to speak. The ministers are here. And by the way, Dr. Joe Parker is here. Where is he? Can he stand up? There he is. There is the Minister of Health. So, comrades, I'm going to request, Asibo Pen. I'm going to request. Asibo Pen, comrade now. I'm going to hand over to the moderators.
Summit delegates, we have an important decision to make. Summit delegates, we have an important decision to make. We can decide that we stay in plenary for people to speak, but that will not lead us to the outcomes that we want. We have designed the summit, and if people want us to use this space to redesign the summit program, there are 3 spaces. So there are people who are asking for other ministers. In the program, you will see that the Minister of DSD is going to be in another accountability panel. So this is not the only panel where ministers are speaking. So different ministers are speaking at different panels. That's number 1. Number 2, there are 3 spaces that have been created, and that's what you've been asked to register for. The danger of staying here with people saying all the issues or the problems that they have, the good thing about that is that people will be heard. The president, the ministers, and everyone who is here is going to hear you. But the design of the summit is that we do not end at being heard. We speak to specific problems and we reach solutions. And we have a plan on how we are going to go about in resolving that. And that is why this is an accountability summit. If we want this to be a consultation where we are saying these are all the things that are wrong, then that's a different summit. And we can have a conversation about whether we want this summit to become that. We said we have a national strategic plan that has got 6 pillars. And in those 6 pillars, we have accountability, leadership, and coordination. And this is what this panel was for us to ask questions about how the response has been coordinated. In the design of the program, it was that after lunch, we will go to commissions that deals with all the 6 pillars. And we will have people from government and other people who are responding. And we, in those sessions, can now speak to the specific issues under Pillar 2, the prevention and rebuilding of social cohesion. Under Pillar 3, the criminal justice system and its responsiveness to survivors of violence. And Pillar 4, that deals with support for survivors, the healing work that needs to happen. Pillar 5, that deals with economic justice, and Pillar 6, that deals with the research, information technology, and data. We will emerge out of these pillar conversations with the solutions that we seek. We are not going to stop there. We have another space, which are the action caucuses. In the action caucuses, we've got the various target groups, people whose vulnerability is heightened, whether we're talking about young people, the elderly, people with disabilities, LGBTQI people. And in the same session, we have different places for people who are service providers, who are answering the question of whether we, in the NSP, are able to respond. And here, when we do the diagnosis, we also leave with the answers to that question. We agree to timeframes. We have conversations about budgeting, and that is why the program is designed like that. The last section is the one with the clinics. So, the reason why I'm explaining all of those things is that if we have to take a decision about people speaking in the plenary, there is something that happens to those spaces that we have co-created as spaces for accountability. So with that, may I ask that we proceed?
Let us provide a platform. Can I address you just 10 seconds?
So,
I want to ask.
Right. So, these questions that have been asked now, okay. Yes, please.
We can be provided with a platform technologically where we can pose our questions. No problem to that.
Okay, in the build-up to the summit. Okay, sorry.
May you please then, if that is not done, please tell us who to go to raise concerns while other things are still going on. We don't want to disrupt anything.
Okay.
We just want to register concerns. That's
okay,
that.
fine. For people in civil society, there was a link which we will make available to everyone, where people were asked to input those accountability questions that people are here. So it is possible that it did not reach everyone, but there is such a link where people can do that. So the responsibility now is to make sure that that link is provided, and we will make the information available there outside in the clinics. So thank you for that progressive intervention. Yes, please.
Hello. No, thanks very much. First, let me apologize for our continuous plea and demand to speak, though we are running short of time. We are not unruly. We don't want to disrespect any person. I'm not giving any mandate to speak on behalf of anybody, but I want to make a humble plea that we all sit down so that we don't push anybody to look at us as ill-disciplined people. Just in the spirit of women and children who have died, let's sit down and allow the process to continue.
Thank you. Right. Thank you very much for all those interventions, and thank you very much for the people who are sitting down. We are very much behind time, and this will be the convenient time for us to break for lunch. I think we have to come back for lunch. It's over after 1, and there hasn't been a break. Okay. All right. What's the time now? It is 1:10 now. May we please come back at 2 o'clock? So thank you very much.